This ugly, dirty Lincoln penny looks like it was scraped off the bottom of a junk drawer, but one just like it sold for over $200,000. And the craziest part? Most people would have spent it without a second thought. That 2009 Lincoln penny with the fully completed U.S. Capitol on the back, the one that looks like just another modern cent, has shocked collectors by selling for hundreds, and in pristine condition, even thousands, of dollars. And most people never give it a second glance. This is the fourth and final design in the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial series, the Presidency Reverse. It shows the completed Capitol dome, symbolizing the Union preserved under Lincoln's leadership. It's a powerful design. But to the average person, it's just a penny from 2009 with a little D under the date. Nothing special. Or so it seems. Now here's what makes the 2009 Presidency cent so interesting. Denver struck a massive number of these coins. They circulated heavily. They were mixed into change across the country. And because they're modern, most people assume they'll never be worth more than 1 cent. But that assumption is exactly why high-grade examples have become so valuable. Finding a 2009 Presidency cent in truly flawless condition is much harder than people realize. Many were immediately spent. They bounced around in pockets, coin jars, and cash registers. Tiny nicks and scratches from everyday use quickly knocked down their grade. To the naked eye, a coin may look fine. But under magnification, you'll often see small contact marks on Lincoln's cheek, jawline, or coat. You may notice tiny hits on the high points of the Capitol dome. Those small imperfections are the difference between 1 cent and serious money. Coins graded MS-67 red have sold for strong premiums. And examples graded MS-68 red have reached into the thousands at auction because so few survive at that level from the Denver Mint. Now here's the twist. Some of the most valuable examples don't look flashy at first glance. They may appear slightly toned or darker than expected. But when tilted under a light, they reveal full, blazing red luster, that bright copper glow collectors call original mint red. So here's your first clue. Take your 2009 Presidency cent and tilt it slowly under a bright light. Does it shine with a smooth, rolling cartwheel effect? Or does it look dull and worn? If it still has strong red color across most of the surface, not brown, not faded, you may want to set it aside. Now let's talk about errors. The 2009 Presidency design has produced some impressive double die varieties. On certain coins, the lettering United States of America or E pluribus unum shows visible doubling under magnification. You may also spot doubling in the lines of the Capitol dome. This is not machine doubling that looks flat or shelf-like. True double dies appear slightly rounded and separated. If you see clear doubling with the naked eye or a simple magnifier, that coin deserves closer attention. Authenticated double die examples have sold for hundreds of dollars depending on clarity and condition. And then there are off-center strikes. If the Capitol building appears shifted to one side and part of the design is missing, but the full date, 2009, and the D mint mark are still visible, that coin could command a substantial premium. Dramatic off-center examples with a visible date are especially desirable. Broad strikes are another possibility. These coins appear slightly wider than normal because they were struck without the retaining collar. The rim may look odd or incomplete. Many people assume the coin was smashed or damaged. But if the details are sharp and the design looks expanded evenly, it could be a genuine mint error worth far more than face value. Now here's something many people overlook with the Denver minted Presidency cent. Strike quality. Some 2009 coins show weaker detail in Lincoln's hair or in the fine lines of the Capitol dome. But strong, fully struck examples, where every line of the dome is crisp and sharp, are much scarcer in top grades. Look closely at the dome lines. Are they sharp and clear? Or slightly mushy and soft? Look at Lincoln's beard and coat. Are the details bold? Sharp strike plus full red color plus minimal marks equals serious collector interest. Now imagine this. You're going through a roll of pennies from the bank. You see a 2009 penny with the completed Capitol. You notice the little D under the date. It looks cleaner than the others. Brighter. You tilt it under the light. It glows. You grab a magnifying glass. The surfaces are smooth. No major scratches. The dome lines are crisp. The lettering might even show slight doubling. That ordinary-looking penny could be worth hundreds if it grades high enough. And here's the key thing for collectors in the 50 to 75 age range. You grew up when pennies were simple and common. You remember that not every coin was saved. Today, modern coins are often overlooked because they feel too recent to matter. But history shows something different. High-grade modern coins often become valuable precisely because nobody thought to preserve them carefully. The 2009 Presidency Cent represents the final chapter of a historic commemorative series. It marks Lincoln's leadership at the most critical moment in American history. And collectors recognize that significance. Next coin, that 2009 Lincoln penny with young Abraham Lincoln sitting on a log, the one that looks dull, brown, maybe even stained from years in a jar, could quietly be worth hundreds, even thousands, of dollars if you know what to look for. Most people remember 2009 as just another year of pennies. Gas prices were high, the economy was shaky, and nobody paid attention to pocket change. But what many collectors don't realize is that 2009 was the 200th birthday of Abraham Lincoln and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent. To celebrate, the U.S. Mint released 4 special reverse designs. One of them was called the Formative Years design, showing young Lincoln sitting on a split log reading a book. And here's where things get interesting. At first glance, this coin doesn't look special. In fact, many of them look worse than normal pennies. They often appear dark, streaky, or even a little blotchy. Some look scratched or slightly rough. That's because in 2009, something unusual happened with how these pennies were made. For part of that year, the Mint switched back to a special copper alloy similar to the original 1909 Lincoln cents. Instead of the usual copper-plated zinc used since 1982, some 2009 cents were struck in 95% copper. That alone makes them different. They're heavier. They feel more solid. And they have a slightly different tone when dropped on a table. So the first simple clue is weight. If you have a small digital kitchen scale, this is incredibly easy to check. A regular modern penny weighs about 2.5 grams. But the special 95% copper 2009 cent weighs about 3.11 grams. That's a big difference in coin terms. If your 2009 Formative Years penny weighs over 3 grams, you might be holding something special. Now here's where collectors really start paying attention. Some 2009 Formative Years pennies were struck with dramatic errors. And these errors can look like damage to the untrained eye. That's why they're often ignored or spent. One of the most valuable is the double die error. On certain examples, the words United States of America or E pluribus unum appear slightly doubled. Not blurry. Not machine damaged. But clearly doubled when viewed under magnification. The doubling may also show in Lincoln's hands or the book he's holding. To most people, that looks like a worn coin. Maybe a printing mistake. Maybe just age. But authenticated double die versions have sold for hundreds, and in high grades, over $1,000. And then there are off-center strikes. If part of the design is missing and the coin looks like it was stamped slightly crooked, don't assume it's damaged. Off-center 2009 Formative Years cents, especially if 10% to 50% off-center with a visible date, can sell for $100 to $500 or more depending on condition. Another major prize is the broad strike error. These coins were struck without the retaining collar, causing them to spread outward. They look wider and slightly flatter than a normal penny. Many people mistake them for being smashed. But genuine broad strike examples from the 2009 Bicentennial series are highly collectible. Now let's talk about mint marks. Flip your 2009 penny over and look just below the date on the front. You'll see either a P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, or no mint mark if it's from Philadelphia circulation strikes. Here's the key detail: San Francisco also struck 2009 Formative Years cents, but primarily for proof sets. These have an S mint mark and a mirror-like finish. Most proof coins were carefully preserved. But sometimes, proof coins get removed from sets and accidentally spent. If you ever see a 2009 Formative Years penny with a sharp, mirror-like background and an S mint mark, do not ignore it. Even if it has light scratches, it could still carry a strong premium. But there's another factor that makes this coin even more intriguing. Condition matters, but not always the way you think. Because so many 2009 pennies were saved by collectors, high-grade examples can be surprisingly valuable. A normal-looking 2009 formative year cent graded MS-67 or higher can sell for hundreds of dollars. And coins graded MS-68 have reached into the thousands. And here's the twist. Sometimes the ugliest-looking coins turn out to be uncirculated examples that develop toning or discoloration while sitting in rolls. Collectors actually pay premiums for attractive natural toning, blues, purples, deep reds, even if the coin looks dirty to the average person. So that brownish red penny in your drawer might not be damaged at all. It might simply be aging naturally. Now imagine this scenario. You're sorting through a jar of old coins. You see a 2009 penny with Lincoln on a log. It looks darker than the others. Maybe a little odd. Instead of tossing it aside, you weigh it. It comes in at 3.11 grams. Your heart skips. You grab a magnifying glass. The lettering looks slightly doubled. Not dramatic, but noticeable. Suddenly, that worth 1 cent coin isn't looking so ordinary anymore. This is exactly how valuable coins slip through everyday hands. They don't look flashy. They don't sparkle. They don't scream rare. They hide. And the 2009 formative year cent is one of the best modern examples of that phenomenon. Another thing to watch for is die cracks or retained cuds, raised lines or blobs of metal caused by cracked dies during minting. On the formative year's design, these sometimes appear near the rim or through the log Lincoln is sitting on. While minor cracks are common, dramatic retained cuds can push value significantly higher. Collectors love visually obvious errors. The more unusual it looks, while still clearly being a mint error, the more desirable it becomes. Now, let's be realistic. Not every 2009 formative year's penny is valuable. Millions were made. Most are still worth 1 cent. But the small percentage with the right combination of weight, condition, or error can command serious money. And here's something important for viewers in the 50 to 75 age group to remember. Many of you grew up when pennies were actually copper. You remember the heavier feel. You remember the richer color. That memory can actually help you. If a 2009 penny feels more like the old pennies from the 1960s and 70s, trust that instinct. Check the weight. Next coin, that 2009 Lincoln penny showing a half-built Capitol dome, the one that looks dull, scratched, maybe even stained from years in circulation, could be worth far more than 1 cent. In fact, certain versions of this professional life design have sold for hundreds, and in rare cases, thousands, of dollars. Most people see that unfinished Capitol building on the back and think nothing of it. It's just another modern penny. But this design was part of the special 4-coin bicentennial series released in 2009 to honor Abraham Lincoln's 200th birthday. And like the formative year's coin, this one hides some surprising secrets. The professional life reverse shows the U.S. Capitol under construction, symbolizing Lincoln's presidency during the Civil War. It's a powerful image, but collectors aren't just interested in the history. They're interested in the mistakes, the metal, and the condition. And this is where things get exciting. First, just like the other 2009 designs, some of these coins were struck in the special 95% copper alloy. That means they weigh about 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5 grams used for most modern pennies. So the very first thing you should do if you find one is weigh it. If it comes in around 3.11 grams, you're holding the copper version. These were made for collector sets, but some have escaped into circulation. And when they do, they often look just like ordinary dirty pennies. There's nothing flashy about them. No bright shine. No obvious sign that they're different. But that extra weight makes a big difference to collectors. Now let's talk about condition, because this coin is extremely sensitive to grade. Millions were made in Philadelphia and Denver. But high-grade examples, coins that never circulated, never got tossed in a jar, never got rubbed against other coins, are surprisingly hard to find. A professional life penny graded MS-67 or MS-68 can sell for hundreds of dollars. And the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth $500 can be almost invisible to the naked eye. Sometimes it's just a tiny nick on Lincoln's cheek. Or a small mark on the dome. So when you're looking at one, tilt it slowly under a light. Does it still have full original luster, that smooth, almost glowing cartwheel effect when you rotate it? Or does it look flat and worn? That glow is what collectors want. But here's where many people make a costly mistake. They see a 2009 Professional Life penny that looks dark or slightly spotted and assume it's damaged. So they clean it. And instantly, the collector value disappears. Natural toning, even if it looks brown, deep red, or slightly uneven, is far more desirable than a shiny clean surface. A cleaned coin loses its originality, and serious collectors can spot it immediately. Now let's get into the real hidden treasures, mint errors. The Professional Life design has several known double die varieties. On some examples, the lettering, especially United States of America and E pluribus unum, shows noticeable doubling under magnification. You may also see doubling in the lines of the Capitol dome itself. At first glance, it can look like a shadow. But under a simple magnifying glass, the letters may appear slightly thickened or separated. Authenticated double die examples have sold for hundreds of dollars depending on clarity and condition. And then there are off-center strikes. If part of the Capitol building is missing because the coin was struck off-center, but the date, 2009, is still visible, you could be looking at a highly collectible error. The more dramatic the off-center strike, the higher the potential value. Some have sold for $150, $300, even more if the error is bold and eye-catching. Broad strikes are another possibility. These coins appear wider than normal because they were struck without the collar that holds them in place. They often look slightly flattened and stretched outward. Many people assume they were smashed. But if the details are still sharp and the rim looks unusual, it may be a genuine mint error. Now let's talk mint marks. Look just below the date on the front of the coin. You'll see either a D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia circulation strikes. There are also S mint mark proof versions from San Francisco. If you find a Professional Life penny with an S mint mark and a mirror-like background, that's a proof coin. Even if it has light wear, it could carry extra value. But here's something even more interesting. Some 2009 proof pennies were accidentally struck on the wrong type of planchet, including transitional errors involving the special copper alloy. These are rare, but when they surface, they can bring serious money at auction. Now imagine you're going through an old coffee can filled with change. You pull out a 2009 penny with the Capitol building. It looks darker than the others. Maybe a little heavier in your hand. Instead of tossing it aside, you place it on a scale. 3.11 grams. Suddenly, it's not just pocket change anymore. You grab a magnifying glass and notice the lettering looks slightly doubled. The coin still has a smooth glow under the light. No harsh scratches. No cleaning marks. That simple 1-cent coin could be worth hundreds. And here's the truth that most people don't realize. Modern coins are often overlooked because they're common. But that's exactly why valuable ones hide so easily. People expect rare coins to be old, silver, or from the 1800s. They don't expect them to be from 2009. That's what makes this series so powerful for collectors. They're recent enough that many are still sitting in jars, drawers, glove compartments, and forgotten piggy banks. Another thing to watch for is die cracks along the rim or across the dome. Raised lines of metal, not scratches cut into the coin, but lines sticking up, can indicate a cracked die during production. Strong, dramatic die cracks are collectible and sometimes sell for solid premiums. Also look for missing clad layers or unusual surface texture. While rare, defective planchets can slip through quality control. If the surface looks unusually rough but still shows clear design detail, it might not be damage, it could be a mint error. But always remember, damage reduces value. Errors increase value. The difference is whether the flaw happened at the mint or after it left the mint. That's why it's important not to assume. The 2009 Professional Life penny may not look impressive. It may look worn. It may look like it's been through 100 transactions. Next coin. That 2009 Lincoln penny with the simple log cabin on the back, the one that looks plain, worn, maybe even a little grimy, could quietly be worth hundreds of dollars, and in rare cases, much more. Most people see that cabin and think it's just another ordinary modern penny. Nothing special. Nothing rare. But this, birth and early childhood, design was the first coin released in the 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial series, and it holds some surprising secrets that many people still don't know about. The reverse shows the humble Kentucky log cabin where Abraham Lincoln was born in 1809. It's a simple image. No dramatic portrait. No flashy design. And that simplicity is exactly why valuable versions of this coin often go unnoticed. Because they don't look valuable. They look like pocket change. Now here's where things start to get interesting. Just like the other 2009 Lincoln Bicentennial cents, this coin was struck in two different metal compositions. Most people are used to modern pennies weighing about 2.5 grams. That's the copper-plated zinc version used since 1982. But in 2009, the U.S. Mint also produced special collector versions struck in 95% copper, the same composition used in classic Lincoln cents from 1909 through 1982. And those copper versions weigh about 3.11 grams. That's your first and easiest clue. If you have a small digital kitchen scale, place your 2009 log cabin penny on it. If it weighs close to 3.11 grams, you may be holding the copper collector version. These were primarily issued in mint sets, but some have found their way into circulation over the years. And when they do, they don't look special. In fact, many look darker or more toned than regular pennies. Some even look dirty. But that extra weight makes them far more desirable to collectors. Now let's talk about condition, because condition is everything with this design. Millions of these coins were struck in Philadelphia and Denver. But here's the twist, many were saved in rolls by collectors in 2009. That means truly flawless examples are harder to find than you might expect. A birth and early childhood penny graded MS-67 or higher can sell for hundreds of dollars. And coins graded MS-68 have reached into the thousands at auction. The difference between 1 cent and serious money can be nearly invisible. You might see a coin that looks clean to your eye, but under magnification it has tiny nicks on Lincoln's face or small marks on the cabin logs. Those small imperfections can dramatically lower the grade. So tilt the coin slowly under a bright light. Look for full, smooth luster, that cartwheel shine that rolls across the surface as you rotate it. If the coin looks flat or dull with obvious wear on Lincoln's coat or the high points of the cabin, it has likely circulated. But if it still has that glowing mint shine with sharp details, you may want to set it aside. Now here's where things get even more exciting. This design has known double die varieties. On certain examples, the lettering on the reverse, especially United States of America or E pluribus unum, appears slightly doubled. Not blurry from damage. Not smeared. But clearly doubled when viewed under magnification. You might also notice doubling in the cabin logs or along the roof lines. To the average person, that might look like a minor flaw. But authenticated double die examples can sell for hundreds of dollars, depending on strength and condition. And then there are off-center strikes. If the cabin appears shifted to one side and part of the design is missing, but the date, 2009, is still clearly visible, that coin could carry a strong premium. Off-center errors that are 10% to 50% off-center with a full visible date are especially desirable. Some have sold for $100, $300, or more depending on how dramatic the error looks. Broad strikes are another possibility. These coins look slightly wider and flatter than normal because they were struck without the retaining collar. Many people mistake them for being damaged or squeezed. But if the rim looks unusual and the details remain sharp, it could be a legitimate mint error worth real money. Now let's talk about mint marks. Look just below the date on the front of the coin. You'll see either a D for Denver or no mint mark for Philadelphia circulation strikes. There are also proof versions with an S mint mark from San Francisco. If you ever find a 2009 log cabin penny with an S mint mark and a mirror-like background, that's a proof coin. Even if it shows light handling, it can still bring a premium. And here's something many people overlook. Natural toning. Because these coins are now over 15 years old, some have developed deep red, purple, blue, or chocolate brown toning. To someone unfamiliar with coins, that might look like dirt or corrosion. But to collectors, attractive natural toning can increase value. That's why cleaning is the worst thing you can do. The moment you polish or scrub that surface, you destroy its originality. Even a valuable double die or high-grade example can drop dramatically in value if it has been cleaned. Now imagine this scenario. You're sitting at the kitchen table, sorting through an old jar of pennies. You pull out a 2009 coin with a small log cabin. It looks darker than the others. Maybe a little heavier in your hand. Instead of ignoring it, you weigh it. 3.11 grams. Your attention sharpens. You grab a magnifying glass. The lettering looks slightly thick. Maybe doubled. The surfaces still glow under the light. There are no major scratches. The cabin details are crisp. That penny you almost tossed back into the jar could be worth far more than face value. And here's what makes this coin so powerful for collectors between 50 and 75 years old. Many of you remember when pennies were made of real copper. You remember the weight and feel. If this 2009 penny feels more like the older cents from decades ago, trust that instinct. Your memory might guide you to something valuable. The birth and early childhood design may look simple. It may look ordinary. It may even look worn and unattractive. But hidden among the millions struck in 2009 are copper weight versions, double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, proof coins, and high-grade gems that serious collectors are willing to pay strong money for. Next coin. This gray, ugly, rusty-looking Lincoln penny was once worth just 1 cent, but today, certain 1943 versions have sold for over $1 million. And the shocking part? Some people have thrown them away thinking they were damaged. In 1943, during the height of World War II, copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment. So the U.S. Mint made a dramatic change. Instead of striking pennies in bronze, they produced them in zinc-coated steel. That's why the 1943 Lincoln cent looks silver instead of brown. At first glance, it doesn't even look like a penny. It looks like a dime. Or a token. Or something that doesn't belong in your change jar. And because they're made of steel with a thin zinc coating, many surviving examples today look worn, spotted, dull, or even rusty. That ugly appearance is exactly why valuable ones get ignored. Now here's the first simple test you can do. Use a magnet. A genuine 1943 steel penny will stick to a magnet instantly. If it doesn't stick, stop right there, because you may have something extraordinary. Let's start with the normal steel cents. Over 1 billion were made in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. You'll find mint marks under the date, a small D for Denver or S for San Francisco. No mint mark means Philadelphia. In circulated condition, most steel cents are worth a few cents to a few dollars. But here's where the story changes. High-grade uncirculated 1943 steel cents, especially with strong luster and minimal spotting, can sell for $100, $200, even $500 or more. Coins graded MS-67 or higher have brought thousands at auction. And here's the catch. Because the zinc coating was thin, many coins developed spots or dark patches over time. Finding one with smooth, bright surfaces is extremely difficult. That's why pristine examples command such strong premiums. Now let's talk about the real hidden treasures. In 1943, a tiny number of bronze planchets, left over from 1942, accidentally remained in the presses. A few pennies were mistakenly struck in bronze instead of steel. These are the famous 1943 bronze Lincoln cents. And they are among the most valuable coins in American history. One sold for over $1 million. If you ever find a 1943 penny that looks brown like a normal copper cent instead of silver, you need to test it immediately. First, use a magnet. If it sticks, it's steel, even if someone copper-plated it later to trick collectors. If it does not stick to a magnet, you may be holding one of the rarest pennies ever made. Next, weigh it. A steel penny weighs about 2.7 grams. A bronze penny weighs about 3.11 grams. That weight difference is critical. But be careful, counterfeit versions exist. Some people copper plate steel cents. Others alter 1948 pennies to look like 1943 by shaving the 8 into a 3. Look closely at the date. On a genuine 1943, the 3 has a distinct shape with a long tail. If it looks oddly shaped or thinner than the other numbers, be cautious. Now here's another valuable variation. The 1943 D bronze cent is extraordinarily rare. Only one confirmed example is widely known. If discovered and authenticated, it would be worth a staggering amount. There are also 1943 S bronze cents that have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars. But even among regular steel cents, there are valuable errors. Look for doubled dies. Examine the date and the word Liberty. If the numbers appear slightly doubled or thicker than normal under magnification, you may have a collectible variety. Check for off-center strikes. If part of the design is missing but the date is visible, that can increase value significantly. Look for clipped planchets, where a curved portion of the coin is missing due to a blanking error at the mint. Also watch for dramatic die cracks, raised lines across the surface, or retained cuts along the rim. Collectors love bold, visible errors. Now imagine this. You're going through a jar of old coins and spot a dull gray penny. It looks worn. Maybe slightly rusty. You almost toss it aside. But instead, you grab a magnet. It sticks. Okay, it's steel. Then you notice it has almost no spots. The surfaces are smooth. When you tilt it under the light, it still shines with a soft silver glow. That coin could easily be worth far more than 1 cent. Or imagine something even more dramatic. You find a 1943 penny that looks brown. You test it with a magnet. It does not stick. Your heart starts racing. You weigh it. Around 3.11 grams. At that moment, you're no longer holding pocket change. You're holding a potential 6-figure coin. Now here's something important for viewers between 50 and 75 years old.